Welcome back to another edition of The Hockey Guys. Eddie Christian and his lovely wife are sitting on a beach down south. Good for Eddie. He must got himself in trouble because this is the second time he's taken his wife on a vacation, you know? It's not because she enjoys listening to him talk the whole time.
Trust me, she's got earbuds in. Trust me.
So, and Doc Johnson, he's still sitting on a boat, sailing up and down the Mississippi River. So, hey, instead of Dean and I, who did we invite? We invited the one and only, the Fargo legend, Dave Morinville, also the legend of Moorhead High School. Coach Morinville, we can't call you coach because Wilson's coach, so we're just going to call you legend.
No, we'll call you GM. We'll call you GM.
Well, thanks for having me on. I listened to you guys. You guys do an unbelievably great job, and it's an honor to be here.
Well, listen, we've been trying to get you on for years, trying to find the right spot for the right man, and today, that's it.
I'm filling big shoes. Big Ed.
Yeah, Big Eddie.
Yeah, Big Eddie. At least there'll be no fighting in the sandbox today, right?
Well, you don't assume that. We have a fantastic guest, and coming up at our third period, Walt Kyle, a longtime college assistant head coach at Northern Michigan University, former assistant coach for a couple National Hockey League teams, who's currently working with a group that does advising of players entering college or entering different programs, whether it be Shattuck, Notre Dame, Sioux Falls. But I think there's a lot of people listening out there that may have questions. What does an advisor actually do? When they go to games or tournaments, what are they looking for? What's the role they play? How do they get introduced to players? What and how can they effectively advise players? There's so many questions that we've had on this show over the last 2 years amongst the hockey guys here, but we know you listeners. 293-9000, 701-293-9000. Say, North Dakota hockey took it to Duluth last night. Before we get into what Bradbury said post-game, both you coaches, Scott Sandlin has been at Minnesota Duluth for 24 years. Is that incredible?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, he's an awesome coach.
Yep, good for Sandy. Good for him.
And you know what? That's a program, frankly, that if you're not producing and you're not doing well and they don't like you in that small town, you're taking a hike. Yep. But homegrown boy out of Hibbing going in there, and he has made that program fantastic. But 24 years. You don't see that much anymore.
No, you don't. And he's been romancing a little bit of the NHL jobs, too. You know, that his name's been tossed around a few times. So he's a very good coach. He does a great job recruiting. And, that was a big win for UND last night. But what's interesting is 30 seconds into the game, breakaway for UMD.
I saw that, yeah.
Thank goodness you have good goalies, right? Because good goalies make good coaches. Right, Dean?
Hey,
that might be a segue. Is that a segue? Do I got time to talk about that real quick?
You do. Go for it. That's a great story.
Dave and I are working. We're working in Troy Lakes, the mighty Treacheck camp. We got 100 goalies on the ice. I'm at Shanley at the time, and you know goalies feast or famine, right? You either got too many, or you don't have any. I don't have any coming back. So Dave comes up to me, and I don't want to mention the kid's name because he's probably listening. He's not seeing us, but he's listening. Anyways, he goes, hey, Will's this guy, his family wants to move to Fargo. He wants to go to Shanley. I go, great, where's he at? Go over him. So I go over to him. I tap him on the shoulder. He turns around. His glasses are thicker than pop bottles. I'm looking. I got car sick following his pupils. And I tell people this story, Dave. The only time in my life I peed my pants laughing. It was hilarious. And Morinville's in the distance looking at me go, you're just one funny guy, Morinville.
We had a lot of fun working that camp, didn't we?
Too much fun. DL was like Vegas. What happens in DL stays in DL.
I was camp director, and it was always funny. John Erickson would say, now don't let those guys go out and have a few beers afterwards, and I'd take money and buy you guys beers on Thursday night. And he goes, why are you doing that? I said, because then they keep coming back and they have fun. That's part of the deal working hockey school.
Say, we have a caller. Uh-oh, Brian calling in from Minneapolis. Good morning. You got my text, huh?
I did. I was out deer hunting up at the lake.
Wow.
Oh, well, you had to come in or be on our call in and be on our radio show. Your old high school coach, Dave Morinville.
Dave.
How you doing, Brian?
Hey, Dave. How you doing?
Very good. Got a text from Bergie. He's out with Sutliff and Greg Leducer last night, so he sent a text to those guys, and, of course, they were having a couple beers.
Brian Williams, the former Fargo North Flash, along with the former University of North Dakota hockey great Brian Williams. Hey, Willie, what you got to have a good story you can tell us on the radio about Dave Morinville.
Well, I'm gonna have to skip the first 10.
Well, Brian, this is Dean Wilson here, and we heard he's PR. We're not talking public relations.
Well, that's perfect.
So
I got to see Dave this summer. I'm playing golf up by Pelican Lake there.
Yes, we'll have to get together. No, Brian was a very good player. He had a great year for us at Fargo. We had an unbelievable team with, John Murray, who passed away, obviously. That line together with Mike Berg, John Murray, and Brian Williams. When they were juniors, they called themselves the Blue Brothers because their jerseys were blue for practice, and it was just we had a lot of fun, and I was very spoiled. They had some great parents and great players when I was coaching at Fargo North.
well, I'll bring Brian and you, Coach Morinville, back a little bit. 1980, my junior year. That's the year you won it, didn't you?
We won it in 81 and 82.
81.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
We
Runner up in 80.
Fargo North beat Minot 3-2 in the first
That was a
game.
scary game.
Yeah, it was.
To advance. Fargo North advanced. I think you guys went off to the championship game, but you had literally 500 to 1,000 students from Fargo North filling up the opposite side, opposite of the bench with students. It was incredible, and they were all cheering. I don't know if I can say this, but kick some ass and smoke some grass. If you remember that, did you invent that one, Willie?
No, it wasn't quite me, but I think they had more fun than we did.
That's true.
We had to drive back home every night for the game.
Yeah, that's
Them
right.
kids got to stay up there, and I think they destroyed a couple hotel rooms, from what I understand.
Well, I'm going to tell you a story. Jerry Sheldon would not let me stay overnight when I coached at Fargo South because of you guys.
Well,
I got some stories about Jerry, too. Those are no good for the radio either.
right. No.
Hey, Brian, listen, I appreciate you getting my text and calling in. Nice to hear from you. Good luck getting that big buck, right?
Yeah, exactly. All right. You guys have a good one.
Yes, thank you, Brian.
Thanks, Brian.
Let's get in touch this summer, if not sooner, Brian, all right? Take care.
Sounds great.
Listen, the presenting sponsor for the hockey guys is Valley Imports. And Valley Pre-Owned, the best price leaders in the region. Find your next vehicle at FargoImports.com. Gateway Chevrolet, where you can save big on Chevy Silverados, Equinox, Blazers. Go online, FargoChevrolet.com. And we'll be back for another period of the hockey guys. 293-9000. Call in. Let's hear from you. Welcome back to the Hockey Guys. 701-293-9000. We have on as a guest who's been on the Bernie Burgraff show in the past, Frank Burgraff, Walt Kyle, and Walt, Jeff Bradall here, Dean Wilson, longtime high school coach in North Dakota, won more championships than Dave Morinville. Is that right? In North Dakota.
There you go.
And,
There you go. Yep, I won 2.
I got you. I won 3.
How many years did you coach in North Dakota?
You know what I think?
I coached 5.
Oh yeah, right, all right. I wasn't recruiting kids before it was legal.
Well, Walt Kyle, thank you for joining us this morning. But what you just heard is the type of show that we have. It's sitting in the locker room after practice and just shooting the bull and having the best times of our lives. And, you know, you were associated, and I'm going to bring you back. You initially started your playing career at Boston College, first 2 years, and then you transferred to Northern Michigan University. And from there on, your career as a Husky was set. Became the legend of Northern Michigan University. No?
Not a Husky. Huskies are Michigan Tech as a Wildcat.
That's right. You were a Wildcat. Wildcat.
That's right. Don't. Yeah, that's
Ooh,
right.
that's like swearing.
Yeah, that's.
I was really lucky. I was at Boston College. We had a real good team my sophomore year, and we lost the national championship to BU. That was a BU team that had all those guys from the Olympic team: Arizioni, Jack O'Callahan, Dave Silk. All those guys went on the Olympic team a couple of years later, and went to transfer to Northern. And was fortunate there. Went to 2 Final Fours with Northern, lost to North Dakota. That's where I'm sure you guys have seen the picture of Frank Burgraff punching me in the face. We lost to the national final.
And you know what's sad is we were pulling for you. It was sad. We were pulling for you.
Yeah.
In that battle, in that fight, you had almost half of northern Minnesota and all of southern Minnesota rooting for you.
Yeah. Well, he you can tell, Frank. I think he hit me and ran.
No, I don't believe that.
No, he didn't. But I got to tell you, he and his dad have shown me that picture for 45 years. I just got a copy of it this morning. So anyway,
That came from me. Actually, it came from Frankie. I was talking to Frank Burgraff this morning, and I told him you were coming on. He goes, I got to send you a picture. He said, Walt and he said, when we stepped on the ice, he said, Walt was the most competitive player, and Frankie was competitive too. And he said, we just, from opponent's standpoint, just battled each other. And he says, and this is why I talked about the Huskies. That came from Frankie Burgraff, by the way. Because he said, I still have the tattoo on my stomach where Walt stabbed me.
Good. No, he's a good man, and they certainly had a good team that year. I remember Doug Smale got 4 goals on us in the national title game. So they were really, really good. So
so was your team.
Yeah. So Walt,
we were
what's
good
the
too. We had
name
a
of
lot
your
of really
what's the
good
name of your group that you work for as an advisor?
I'm done coaching, and I work for a group called Newport Sports. We're the largest group in the NHL in regards to representing players. We have between 150, 180 guys under National Hockey League guys. We have about $2.2 billion under contract. So what my job is, we have all different guys in all different jurisdictions. We have guys that work in, say, Western Canada, guys that work in Ontario, guys that work in Russia, Sweden, Finland, and that all do what I do. And our job is really to go out and try to find guys that we think down the line have a chance to play in the National Hockey League. And then, the way the business has turned turn now. You have to go and you're looking at kids that are, believe it or not, you're looking at Bantam kids right now. And we're trying to find guys that we think have a chance, then recruit them obviously into the firm and start to work with them. And then just kind of make sure that along the path they have all the things in front, a couple of things. We make sure that they have all the things in front of them. As we evaluate their game, we can tell them and that's one of the reasons why I'm doing this, because of my career coaching. But we can talk to guys and say, hey, look, you do this, and this really well, but you need work on your skating. Do you have a plan for that? If you don't have a plan, here's some people we think you should maybe get in contact with. And that would carry through into whether it was skating or strength training or, those kind of things. And then as the player progresses, we watch his development and his growth, and we talk to him about the things he needs to work on and the things he has to grow in his game, and hopefully provide some kind of, good evaluation there and help the kid become the player that he's capable of.
Hey, Walt, this is Wilson here again. So help navigate me. My thoughts are, I'll do a hypothetical. I have a 15-year-old son as a dude, okay? So do I find, it could happen, but.
Yeah, he's from Thunder Bay, and I always say he's got a whole team up in Canada from British Columbia all the way to Newfoundland.
Anyways, Walt, so do I find you or you find me? Like, how does it go? I mean, I know scouts go out and they they're eyeballing their bird dog, they're watching, but so I got a son and I think he's the real deal. How do I get you to find him, or you will find me?
We will find you. I mean, if you're playing at a credible level, which you probably have to do to be, to turn into an NHL player. I mean, we're looking at all the credible levels, and we will find you, or someone in our industry will find you. You know what I mean? And what I would tell kids is, or I would tell families, because it's really, we're working with a family, and I would tell you that, there's a number of good people in our industry, and I would say the bulk of people in our industry are really good people, but there's a vast difference in capabilities of the firms, and what's happened in the industry is a lot of these smaller firms that maybe aren't as capable or don't have the number of players, they have to, if they went head to head with the big firms or the guys that were really credible in the industry, they wouldn't have success. So what they've done is they've started to go after younger and younger kids and develop relationships and sell these families that they need guys at these young ages. They really don't. I mean, truthfully, you don't need anyone in our industry. I mean, we can't be of any benefit to people in our industry till you're really talking about 15, 16-year-old kids. You know what I mean? So, and then we only can become a benefit because that's when the national development team, for example, here in America, the national development team starts working with kids. The USHL draft is coming. If you're a kid that wants to play Majors Junior, that's where you start talking about the Western Hockey League or the Ontario Hockey League. And so, prior to that, there's not much you can do. You know what I mean? So, we have to now, because of guys reaching out to young kids, we have to make contact with these families and at least tell them, hey, look, you don't need us now, but down the line, we want you to know we have an interest in working with you. And when the time's right, here's who we are. And that's kind of the way we work.
So the CHL, players eligible for the NCAA, is that a game changer? Does that change your mindset and your mission of how you go about doing business?
I think it's going to be a game changer. I think it's going to be a game changer for college hockey. I think what you've seen happen over the last, I'm going to call it 20 years, but when the old WCHA broke up, which was really driven by the Big Ten schools, and the Big Ten network and those things, that league was a phenomenal league, but when college hockey split up, it really became the haves and have-nots. And a lot of these, one of the beautiful, and I don't mean to drag this conversation out, but one of the beautiful things about college hockey back in the day was schools like Bemidji and Northern Michigan, and these smaller schools got a chance. It was David and Goliath. They got a chance to play Minnesota and Wisconsin and play in leagues with those guys, and that gave them the ability to recruit players, really good players to those programs. And now what's happened is the big guys have changed every single rule to their benefit. And, so consequently, they're hoarding all the best players. And it's going to be a long time before Bemidji or Northern Michigan win a national title, if you know what I'm saying. And now what's happened with this new CHL rule, and we have to figure out how that's going to fit and what the dynamics of it are, because nobody really knows yet. But that's going to open up a whole new player pool that's going to allow these smaller schools to be very good and very competitive with the big schools.
Say, Walt, Kyle, would you be willing to hang on 3 minutes? We're going to take a break here, and let's continue this discussion. Would you please?
Okay. Yeah.
And Walt, listen, we'll be back in 3 minutes to continue our conversation with Walt Kyle, legendary coach and a family advisor right now for young players. We'll be back right after this. Welcome back to the Hockey Guys. We have a fantastic guest. 701-293-9000. 701-293-9000. With Walt, including being at Northern Michigan for, I think it was well over 15 years, was assistant coach for the Mighty Ducks of the National Hockey League along with the New York Rangers. And now he is a family advisor, consultant, and helping a lot of young players throughout the country, setting the steps one step at a time to a successful career in life, and that's what it is. Walt, thank you again for joining us. Hey, question for you. There are some family advisors that are out charging $4 or $5 grand a player, and you don't charge anything. What do you think of that?
Yeah, I think you have to be careful with what you're doing and who you're with. Different guys have different models, and really, I mean, I think it really those type of things really separate the top from the bottom. It's going to be interesting right now. How it all shakes out. I would just tell people that if guys are going to charge you that kind of money up front, you better be damn sure you're getting services and not just, not just giving somebody money. It's in my opinion, it's not a thing you need to be paying anybody for until you've made it. You're paying them for actually helping you along the path.
So what do you do, Walt, with these guys that are playing college hockey? Like, for instance, like if you were representing a pool camp in the transfer portal, do you get very involved with that? It seems like some agents are more involved than others. Is that true?
Yeah, I would tell you truthfully, the way the NCAA rules are, the NCAA rules, it's kind of unique. You have to, you can have an advisor prior to your enrollment in college, and when you get to college, you really are not supposed to have an advisor.
Yep.
That's not that. Yeah, you and I know, being in the game, that's not the way it works. And so truthfully, the guys have to go through that process themselves. But we obviously have relationships with these kids that we've had for a long time, and we're certainly receiving calls asking us for advice. That would be the easy way to say it. You know what I mean? So I don't want to get too much into that,
right?
But you know what I'm saying. So
no, Kyle, I look at or Walt, I look at this and say, you know what? If I had a young player that wanted to move on to juniors in college, I'd be picking up the phone, calling, Dave Morinville. I'd be talking to Dean Wilson. I'd be talking to Coach Collin. But not a lot of people don't have that opportunity,
That's right. That's exactly what I was going to say. You have to understand, those people in the industry, and people that can give you good advice. The bulk of the people out there don't. And they may know one or two guys, and they may know one or two guys that know one facet of the game, but don't know all the different, avenues or people in the industry. I mean, one of the big things we do with young kids right now prior to, their enrollment in college is we talk to them about the scholarship process and what a scholarship is. And they get scholarship offers, and somebody gives them an 80% and tells them that's a full. Well, it's not a full. You know what I mean? It's an 80%. And all the other things that go with it, whether it's cost of attendance money, Alston money. I mean, there's a lot of stuff out there that families just don't know, and it's important that they're educated into it and along the way, and so we certainly are involved with all that. Again, families are going to choose what college, their son or even daughter, we don't work with women, but their son or daughter wants to take. They're going to make that choice, but they need to make it being educated. What kind of education is it? Who are the people we're working with? Are they, what is their history? Are they good people? Blah, blah, blah. Are they going to stay here? Or is the head coach looking to move on into pro? I mean, we know some of those things, that maybe, the average guy doesn't know.
Hey, Walt, do you think the open portal is going to dissipate? I think is it going to destroy hockey as we know it. I mean, I'm an old high school coach. We got rid of the open enrollment. You had to sit out a calendar year, school year, because guys were hopping all over the place in the cities. They were hopping all over to play on the private schools, not to pick on them, but they're loading it up. And I had guys come to high school, and you're not going to turn down Gretzky, right? I mean, if Gretzky wants to play for me, good for him, or good for me. But is it going to destroy things, or do you think it's going to dissipate the mighty pandemic? It all evolved around that.
Well, here, I'll give you a little longer answer to that. But if WCCO offered you $100,000 to go work for them, would you go work for them?
Money's right up there with oxygen. Heck yeah.
well, no. So that's my point, and that's what happens is, why would these guys, in every other facet of our society, you have the freedom to move based, on what's best for you or what you perceive as best for you. So why shouldn't these athletes have that right as well? Because I see these guys go in and they're I'm making this a long answer, but I see these guys go in, they're promised the world, they'd go somewhere to play. Now they're getting 3 minutes a night. You know what I mean? Why shouldn't they be able to move somewhere else? And now with all these other things that are coming into it, NIL money and all these other things, I mean, these guys can make money going other places and do some of these things, especially in sports like football and basketball. Now, is it going to wreck college hockey? Is it going to change college hockey as we know it? It absolutely is. But you know what's going to happen? The guys that are good operators are going to survive. And I don't think it's, just so you know, I don't think it's good for the game. I hate it. We hate it. I think it's a bad thing. It's sending the wrong message, in a lot of ways, in a lot of situations. I don't like it at all. But it's there to stay. And what it's done now, in the past, the coaches had all the power. You were there. I did it myself. I was at Boston College. If I was going to go somewhere else and be happy, I had to sit a year. You know what I mean? Well, I don't know that that's fair. And I think that if you're not happy, you should be able to move and go somewhere else. And unfortunately, it changes the game for a lot of fans and for the universities. But the message becomes, you get a guy, you better treat him right. Where it's really going to hurt guys, where it's really going to hurt programs, is these schools like Northern Michigan and Bemidji that are fortunate enough to get an Eric Polkamp, for example, right. or they had a kid in Northern Michigan named Joey Larson. These guys they're able to recruit guys that are kind of way above their pay grade, and they get him for a year. And now this kid he doesn't want to go to Bemidji anymore. Now he wants to go to Minnesota or Michigan State or Denver, one of these high-profile schools. And he would have probably gone to one of those anyway had he been recruited at one. But those schools didn't believe in him at that time. You know what I mean? And when he proved himself in Bemidji, now they want him. And it's unfortunate for Bemidji. But Tom Serratori looks at it like this. You know what? Eric Polkamp was with me for a year, and he helped me win a league title.
It's just like, I mean? Yeah, it's like Gino would say when he had a guy that, like a Taves would come in for a year. At least I got him for a year. And, getting back
exactly.
to
he had it for a year.
Right. And getting back to what Walt does is kind of like when I was coaching at Moorhead, Brian Lee, very fortunate to coach him and Ammerman and Vandervelde. You're giving them options. These schools are interested in you, and that's what Walt does, because you only get so many schools that you can visit. And Walt is a guideline for all those guys to do those things. And that's one of the reasons that I know Dean Wilson wanted you on, was that Dean wants you to help negotiate his contract to get a better deal here with what Jeff's making money and Ed's making money. He wants you to negotiate that when you get time. Walt,
yeah, certainly. It's not, and all the big money's there with you guys. And we certainly would want to. We would want our cut of that. Yeah.
I want $100 million like Kelsey gets with Spotify. We're on Spotify, and I think we got a cup of coffee from those guys. But another thing is, every coach that we've had on here said one thing that stuck in my mind is that go where they want you, go where they're going to play you. These athletes 100%. Want to go somewhere else, and I go. If you got 7 goalies there, you don't want to be the 8th goalie.
But what can be interesting in that is if you have a transfer guy. Let's say you have a guy that's playing at another college, and you have a recruit coming in from a junior team. Hey, you're going to be our goalie next year. Well, guess what? A guy from a transfer portal says, hey, I want to come and play for you. And he was an all-star in the ACAC. What do you do? as a college coach.
Exactly. And that, you know what? And I know, for example, last year, Bob Motzkow had an opportunity to go after a kid at Minnesota that was and I won't give you the name of the kid, but a kid that was an exceptional player. And he was a young kid coming out that had played some, was a young kid that was able to change his mind in the college he wanted to go to. But they already had a kid that they believed in. And Bob said, nope, we have a kid we believe in. We're sorry. Best of luck to you. And I gave Bob, in my mind, a ton of credit for that,
Right.
with sticking with the kid that you believed in. But I'm going to tell you what happens, and you guys know this, and I don't mean this because I did it for a long time, and Morney did it for a long time. The guys that are recruiting in college hockey are the best in the business. They're out there recruiting, and they can sell their product. You know what I mean? And when they recruit you, they're going to tell you all the good things and how much you're going to play. Well, it doesn't always work that way, and so that these guys have an opportunity then to move and change. You know what I'm saying? So.
Say, Walt, we got about 20 seconds here. Put your phone number out where parents can call you, would you please? We got listeners all over the country.
Yeah, it's 203. Actually, I don't want to put it out there.
All right.
I better not put it
Just
out there.
Walt.
Good. I appreciate you guys having me on.
Walt
and
Kyle, just Google
him.
him and he'll be in contact with you.
Thank you, Walt. That was excellent.
All right.
Newport Sports Management is what he works for. That's the company. So.
Thank you. We'll be back with the hockey guys right after this. Welcome back to the Hockey Guys. Hey, we need to thank Citywide Electric. They've been with us for the last 2-3 years. Great sponsors along with Gateway Chevrolet and Valley Imports. Citywide Electric, Dave, you know them.
Yep.
Experience you can trust for design, repair, and installation of home and business electrical projects. That's Citywide Electric. And Ham's Beer. How can we not thank Ham's Beer for
Good
being
beer.
a sponsor from Beverage Wholesalers?
Sky Blue Water.
Yeah, and it's still brewed in the family tradition with the sky blue water, isn't it?
It is. It is.
Hey, speaking of beer, I noticed that Coors and Molson in Appleton is closing their shop.
Get the paddles out for Dean.
Yeah.
What the heck? They got to run this by me, man. They can't do that.
Drop
But
it
you know
on
what? That's because the sales of Ham's Beer has grown so much, you know?
Yeah, you got to do it. You know, hey, speaking of Ham's Beer, the deer camp opening hunting. The guys up in Carlson, Minnesota, the Twin Lake Deer Camp. I got to give a shout out to you guys. One Shot Wilson will be coming up after the show, so don't panic. You get some meat, you vegetarians up there. You know what I mean? But Joe and his camp and those guys are having a blast. We got a couple new faces up there, but I got to give a shout out to those guys. They're great. They're awesome. We got a deer shack. My father from Carlson to Greenbush, if you know that neck of the woods, you know, and male bonding at his finest. I got to get up there early because I'm the young guy at 65. Joe will be 90 years old and go, we got to turn in. It's a big day. It's like 7 p.m. You
You're
know?
giving him a shout out so you can get some deer sausage is all you're doing.
You got
Here's-
100%. I love those guys. I'll be up. Don't go to bed yet. Get me some klub too from the church up there, homemade klub.
All right, Dave. Here's the real story. It takes 90 minutes to get up there. So when Will says I'm leaving from at the end of the show right up to deer camp, at about 93 minutes, we get a picture of Will standing next to like 3 deer, as if he shot them in 3 minutes. Explain that. That's kind of a giveaway, buddy.
You know, when you grow up like me in the wilderness in Canada, you know, that movie, you know, Alive or Alone, you know, we grew up with that. In my backyard, my dad would go out and get us some meat, you know, go out in the backyard. But I didn't like hunting season because my dad was a butcher. We cut up 10 moose a day. I kid you not. People go, oh, you're from Canada. You love to hunt? I go, that meant busyness, you know, deer, moose, you know. But yeah, it was like I said, my dad was a butcher, and it was all good, you know. But I love going up there, male bonding at its finest. There's some women up there that like to hunt too, but yeah, it's all good, and I'm looking forward to getting up there with those guys.
You know, this is the first show we've had where we haven't even talked about one score of a college hockey game last night. We're having too much fun, right?
Yeah, that's right.
University of North Dakota over Duluth, big time. We had listened to Brad Berry's post-game press conference. Addison, do you have that 30-second clip? North Dakota had that game dominated for first 40 minutes.
They started out great.
And then started sitting in the sin bin. And But let's hear from Coach Brad Berry. You know, when you play on the road, you want to get that first goal, right?
That was big.
When you got the game in hand, you don't want to let the other team come back, right?
But look at Wisconsin. The Gophers go in there, into Madtown, get behind 2 rip, and come on the first goal they score was a 3-on-1 short-handed goal in Wisconsin. Mike Hastings from Crookston, new head coach at Wisconsin, been the second year there, and the Gophers go and win in Madtown 3-2.
In overtime, was it overtime?
No, it wasn't overtime. But
Snuggerud got 2 goals in that game.
He can rip the puck.
Isn't he a sweet player with his hands?
A strong candidate for Mr. Hockey, the finals Hobie. But you know the Gophers, you know, they're slowly sliding up. You know, we haven't really bounced it out to them really hard, but Gophers are the real deal. You know, they're on the top 5. They're moving their way up to the top.
You
They
know,
are.
I
They're a
think
good team. They got a great team, fun to watch.
I think the difference between the Gophers this year than 2 years ago when they had Cooley and Snuggerud and Faber back at D, right?
Yeah, right.
Is they don't have that leadership back at D like they'd had when they had their championship run 2 years ago.
But Bob feels these D are going to be just as good as that crew by the end of the year. He feels really positive about him talking to him.
There's always people moving up.
There is. You got to find somebody, Pete, and he's gotten some good recruits. Bob does a great job there. He's got Killer Miller as assistant coach, who does a very, very good job recruiting for him. Like all these guys, like Walt mentioned, you got to have good recruiters that are willing to go on the road and identify the right guys and meet with your family advisors.
Yeah. And not, the assistant coaches, when we were, quote, growing up, right?
Right.
It was kind of a transition. But now the assistant coaches, they're getting paid I think the colleges and the programs defined as the alumni realize that their success is based upon the assistant coaches getting out and hitting the road and finding the diamonds in the rough, like pole camp.
Great bird dogs, I always say. Great bird dogs.
Well,
And
listen,
sell your program, too.
Yeah.
Besides, you got to be a salesperson, too. You got to identify and sell.
how good would the Gophers be or UND be if they had pole camp on one of their rosters this year instead of Denver?
Right.
No doubt.
He went on. He was the diamond in the rough and was picked up in the midget. Could be one of the best players in college
At Denver,
hockey
he's
right
playing
now.
at Denver right now and doing very well.
Cobbers won last night against Osberg.
Alma
Kirk
mater.
Olam. I think Elliot Bates. You talk about guys that hit the bushes hard. He works hard, and they won 4-1 last night, and they're on a roll, doing a great job. Good
That's
job by
great.
Kirk Olam and your staff and the Cobbers. Another thing,
Kirk?
Yeah, I do.
Kirk's a hell of a coach,
Concordia.
and
He's done a great job.
And Elliot Bates is
Yeah.
the assistant
they're rock
coach.
stars. Another thing I want to throw, just a thought of mine. I'm hoping tonight this plays out. Bulldogs UND. I'm hoping Sandy starts in net for the Bulldogs. You got Strindham and Berg.
Yep.
You got North Dakota boys. I kick this dead horse. Oh, Fargo Metro, they don't produce any players. Baloney. We've been producing some good
Look at
hockey
Strindon.
players.
Yeah, he's a good player.
Strindon picked up. Was
And
it a
Berg,
short-handy last
West
night?
Fargo,
West
he's
Fargo.
crazy good.
Yep.
Number one line.
Right.
Yeah.
And they were waiting for him to come back. I mean,
They
he was
needed
hurt.
him.
They did. You bet. That's a very good point. And you know what? I'll tell you what. Concordia, you go and everybody likes. There's UND hockey's great hockey, but when Concordia comes here, I tell you what, that hockey is good hockey to go over and catch a
Mayak has
game.
gotten stronger.
Big time. There's hardly a player on that team that has not played junior hockey that's playing in that conference.
Yeah, Dave, we haven't even had a chance to talk with the growth of University of Jamestown University,
Right.
Bismarck, Minot,
Yep.
Dickinson,
Rybczynski, I got to throw it out to him too at Botno.
and Bodno.
Right.
All-American coach with Travis.
We love our pets, accidents and messes included.